in the heart of Umudike town, where the red earth carries the footprints of many generations, where the mango trees have listened to 1,000 secrets, there lived a young girl named Ngozi. She had no father to call her name, no mother to braid her hair in the mornings, no uncle to speak for her in the village square, no inheritance, no land, no protection, only a quiet smile that warmed every room she entered, and a heart so full of kindness, it made people stop and wonder. She was only 10 years old when the fever took her mother. The whole compound gathered to mourn. But after the burial, the compound moved on, as compounds always do. It was Madam Emeka who stepped forward, a woman of means, a woman of standing. She opened her door and said, "Madam Emeka, the child cannot live in the streets. She will come with me. I will raise her." The villagers praised her name everywhere they went. Maman Kechi. What a woman. What a generous soul. Elder Okafor. Madam Emeka has the heart of 10 mothers. God will bless her. Village women. A blessing to this community. A true daughter of this soil. But what nobody knew was this. Madam Emeka did not bring Ngozi into her house because of kindness. She brought her in because of fear. A deep, choking, desperate fear. The kind that follows you into sleep. The kind that sits beside you at dinner. A secret she buried 22 years ago. Was still breathing. Still waiting. Still alive. Years passed in that compound like dry Hamatan wind. And Ngozi grew. She grew into a young woman of extraordinary character. Quiet. Respectful. Tireless. She rose before the sun had decided to wake. She swept the compound while stars were still watching. She cooked before anyone else had opened their eyes. She fetched water, cleaned corners, tended the garden. All without complaint. All without asking for praise. Neighbor woman. That girl Ngozi, have you seen how she works? Like she was born for labor and grace at the same time. Neighbor woman. Madam Emeka does not deserve her. That girl deserves a good home of her own. And most importantly, she helped raise Madam Emeka's only son, Kelechi. Strong, handsome, educated, the pride of the compound, the one everybody watched with hopeful eyes. Ngozi had carried him on her back when he was sick. She had helped him with his schoolwork when no one else had patience. She had cheered for him at every celebration. She had been his shadow and his sunshine. People began saying things that made Madam Emeka uncomfortable. Maman Kechi. Madam, that girl is not a house help anymore. She is a daughter. You should treat her like one. Madam Emeka would smile on the outside. A beautiful, practiced smile. But inside her chest, something dark had been growing for a long time. Jealousy. And something worse than jealousy. Fear. Because she had begun to notice something dangerous. Kelechi no longer looked at Ngozi like a sister. He looked at her the way a young man looks at the woman he has chosen. With longing. With intention. With certainty. It happened on a quiet Tuesday evening. The sky was the color of a bruised mango. Ngozi was walking back from the well, pot balanced on her head. Her steps were careful. Her mind was elsewhere. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Kelechi. Ngozi. Wait. She slowed but did not stop. Kelechi. Please. I need to talk to you. She set the pot down carefully beside the well, turned to face him. His voice was shaking. His hands were not still. Kelechi. I have been carrying this thing in my chest for a long time now, and I cannot carry it anymore. Ngozi looked at the ground. She already knew what was coming. She had seen it in his eyes for months. Kelechi. Ngozi. I want to marry you. Silence. Complete and heavy silence. Even the crickets seemed to stop. Ngozi's breathing became shallow. Her hands gripped the edge of the well. Ngozi. Kelechi. No. This cannot happen. We grew up together. Your mother took me in. I am like your... Kelechi. Like my what? You are not my sister. You are not family by blood. And I have loved you since I was old enough to understand what love is. Ngozi. Your mother will never agree. You know this. Kelechi. My mother will agree. I will speak to her myself. And if she refuses, I will still choose you. I have already decided. From the window of the main house, hidden behind the curtain, Madam Emeka heard every single word, every breath, every promise, every heartbeat. That night she did not sleep. She sat in the darkness of her room, sweating even though the night was cool, thinking, calculating, panicking, because she knew what Kelechi did not know, what Ngozi did not know, what the whole village did not know. The secret she buried 22 years ago was not buried deep enough. Madam Emeka, my necklace, my gold necklace is missing. Her voice flew over the compound walls like a hawk. Doors flew open. Feet gathered. Voices rose. The entire neighborhood crowded inside within minutes. Mama Nkechi, which necklace? The one from your late husband. Madam Emeka, yes, the one I never remove. It was on my dresser last night and now it is gone. The search began immediately. Drawers opened. Mattresses lifted. Bags checked. Everyone's belongings were turned inside out. Then, someone reached into Ngozi's small wooden box beneath her bed. There it was. The necklace. Glittering. Gold. Unmistakable. Mama Nkechi. Ngozi. You. After everything this woman has done for you. Children whispered behind walls. Adults exchanged glances full of betrayal. Neighbor woman 1. She pretended to be good all this time. A snake wearing the face of a dove. Neighbor woman 2. I always said you cannot trust a person with no family background. Ngozi's body began to tremble. Her mouth opened but the words would not come. Tears rolled down her face like they had somewhere important to go. Ngozi, I did not take it. I swear on my mother's grave, I did not take that necklace. Madam Emeka, then how did it get into your box? Leave my house. Leave now. Today. This minute. Ngozi fell to her knees, crying, shaking, begging. Ngozi, Mama, please. Where will I go? This is all I know. Please don't do this. But the crowd had already made up their minds. The necklace was in her box. The story was already written. Ngozi walked out of that compound with nothing but the clothes on her back, and a truth that nobody was willing to hear. Madam Emeka was not protecting her necklace. She was protecting her secret. 22 years earlier. The rainy season had flooded the paths between villages. Thunder shook the clinic walls all night. 2 women lay in the small maternity ward of St. Agnes Clinic. Both had delivered babies that same stormy evening. One woman was wealthy, well-dressed even in labor. Her baby, a girl, was born weak, too small, barely breathing. The other woman was poor. Her wrapper was thin and faded. Her baby, a boy, was born strong, loud, full of life. While the nurse stepped away to prepare medicine, Madam Emeka made a decision that would change everything. She switched the babies. She took the strong baby boy, wrapped him in her own fine cloth, and she left her weak daughter in the other woman's arms. When the nurse returned, she saw what she thought was the natural order. A wealthy woman with her strong child. A poor woman resting beside her sleeping baby. The poor woman, Ngozi's mother, never knew. She raised that girl as her own, loved her completely. And when she died from fever 10 years later, she died never knowing the truth. Madam Emeka's stolen son grew up as Kelechi. Strong, educated, beloved, everything she had hoped he would be. And her real biological daughter, the girl she abandoned in that clinic, was Ngozi, which meant something terrifying. Kelechi was not her real son. Ngozi was not an orphan girl she pitied. They were brother and sister. After Ngozi left the compound, peace did not arrive. It was as if the compound itself was grieving her absence. Kelechi locked himself in his room. He stopped eating, stopped answering when people called his name, stopped looking at the world outside his window. 3 days passed. Then on the 4th night, Kelechi, I will not marry anyone else. Do you hear me? I do not want anyone else. His voice shook the ceiling. Madam Emeka sat in her chair, heart hammering. Every day, the walls of her secret grew thinner. Meanwhile, far down the dusty road from the compound, Ngozi had collapsed by the roadside. Exhausted, dehydrated, heartbroken. A passing nurse found her and rushed her to the government hospital. The doctors worked quickly. They ran routine tests. And then, something caught the eye of the senior doctor. "Doctor, this girl's blood group does not match the family medical record she carries. Look, there is a significant discrepancy here." The nurse looked, then looked again. A small thing, a blood type on a piece of paper. But it was enough. Karma does not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet discrepancy on a medical form. The doctor who had worked at St. Agnes Clinic 22 years ago was now the chief medical officer of the region. He had retired, but he had not forgotten, because some things you cannot forget. When the hospital's investigation connected the blood records to the clinic records of that rainy night, he made a phone call. Then he picked up his files, and he walked to Umudike town himself. Madam Emeka saw him from the window, and every drop of blood in her body ran cold. "Doctor, good afternoon. I need everyone to gather, please. What I have to say concerns this family, and this community." Villagers crowded in. Mama and Kechi, the neighbors, the elders, even Kelechi, pale and hollow-eyed, stood in the doorway. Ngozi was brought in from the hospital, still weak, still confused, supported by a nurse. The doctor opened his folder. His voice was steady, calm, clinical. The voice of a man who had rehearsed this moment and still found it heavy. "Doctor, 22 years ago, 2 babies were born at St. Agnes Clinic on the same night. DNA testing, prompted by this young woman's blood work, has confirmed something that changes everything you think you know. Doctor, these 2 young people, Kelechi and Ngozi, are full biological siblings. They were switched at birth." Mama and Kechi, "What? What kind of thing is this? How is that possible?" Kelechi looked at Ngozi. Ngozi looked at Kelechi. The world tilted beneath both their feet. And slowly, every single face in that compound turned toward Madam Emeka. Madam Emeka stood at the center of it all, surrounded by the community she had built her reputation in, surrounded by people who had praised her name for decades, surrounded by the 2 young people whose lives she had shaped with her lie. Her knees gave way first, then her hands, then her voice, which had always been so loud, so commanding, cracked, and she fell. "Madam Emeka, I did it. God forgive me, I did it. I switched them. That night in the clinic, I switched the babies. I was afraid my daughter would not survive. I was afraid she was too weak. I took the boy. I left my own child behind. I left Ngozi, my own daughter, behind." Mama and Kechi, "Madam, how? 22 years? All this time? And you look that girl in the face every single day." Kelechi stepped backward slowly. 1 step, then another. His face was not angry. It was something worse than anger. It was empty. "Kelechi, you let me fall in love with my own sister. You accused her of stealing. You threw her into the road. And all along you knew." His voice broke on the last word. Ngozi stood very still. She was not crying anymore. The tears had finished themselves somewhere on that roadside. She looked at Madam Emeka, the woman who was her mother, with an expression that had no name. "Ngozi, I called you Mama in my heart every day, even when you shouted at me, even when you treated me like I was nothing. I still thanked God for you, because I thought you saved me." A long pause, heavy as the whole world. "Ngozi, but you did not save me. You buried me, and called it kindness." Police vehicles heard in the distance. The doctor had already filed his report. The officers entered the compound quietly. There was no drama needed. The truth had done all the dramatic work. Madam Emeka was led out of the compound, through the same gate she had stood at for 22 years, receiving praise, receiving admiration, receiving the trust of a community. She left that gate in handcuffs, while the same neighbors watched in silence. That evening, as the sun went down over Umudike town, 2 young people sat together in the compound for the first time. Not as servant and master's son, not as man and woman in love, but as brother and sister, learning what that meant from the beginning. There was much to grieve, much that could never be undone, much that would take years to understand. But truth had finally come home. And truth, even painful truth, is always better than a comfortable lie. That day, Umudike town learned something it would never forget. You can hide truth from your neighbors. You can hide truth from your family. You can hide truth from the whole village. But you can never, never hide truth from karma.